You're listening to today's inspirational message on the Proverbs with Kurt Bjorklund.
One of the themes that is repeated in Proverbs is the contrast between the righteous and the unrighteous, or the wicked. And Proverbs isn't shy in talking about this contrast. One of the ways that righteousness seems to be defined in Proverbs is by Bruce Waltke. He uses this well. He's written a great commentary, actually a 2-volume, huge commentary on Proverbs. And he says that the righteous in Proverbs, and really throughout the Old Testament, are those who are willing to disadvantage themselves for the sake of the community. And that the unrighteous, or the wicked, are those who are willing to disadvantage the community for the sake of themselves. And in Proverbs 28, we'll see a little bit of this definition, but there's more to the definition of righteous and unrighteous. And I am not one to disagree often with Bruce Waltke, but I think that just is a little too simplistic of a definition, and that we need to also see that unrighteousness and righteousness has to do with what is right in any given situation. Certainly has to do with the standing before God, but being right in any situation leads to boldness, and not being right leads to a desire to get away from situations or people. And this is what we see in Proverbs 28:1, where we see that the wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. So here's the word righteous used right at the beginning of this proverb chapter, and so we're going to see again this contrast between righteousness and unrighteousness throughout this chapter. And the righteous have a clear conscience, are bold. The unrighteous have a non-clear conscience, an unclear conscience, a guilty conscience, and are not bold. The Message translates verse 1 this way. It says, "The wicked are edgy with guilt, ready to run off even when no one's after them. Honest people are relaxed and confident, bold as lions." There's a song that the Cave People came out with a couple years ago, and there's a universal sentiment in the song. It's called Guilt, and the sentiment is this. The line says, "Hope you get what you deserve, but I hope I don't get what I deserve." Though that's often not stated, it's often felt. The desire to see others get justice while we evade justice is something that's pretty near universal. There's something else that's true about guilt that this proverb shows us, and that is when you try to avoid people or situations, it's often because there's a feeling down deep that we are guilty. Guilt creates an edginess and a fear within a person who isn't confident in his or her standing in any given situation. So when someone asks an open-ended question about what someone did last night and someone quickly wants to change the subject, that discomfort is an indication of a troubled conscience. When someone is touchy about anyone seeing their messages or browsing history on the web or their phone, it's an indication of a troubled conscience. When a teenager doesn't want their mom or dad to know the details of their life, it's an indication of a troubled conscience. Sometimes that may be growing up, but sometimes it means you're just trying to conceal something. Usually the guilty person will excuse this with the notion that the other person is asking the questions that are unreasonable and difficult. Here's maybe just a couple diagnostic questions to know if you have a guilty conscience. Do you want to keep other people from knowing what you look at, where you go, or what you do? Do you find yourself isolating from places you used to enjoy, such as family gatherings, church, or any formerly positive environment? Have you come to believe that people who were once for you are now against you? Maybe even telling yourself that they were wrong, you were wrong to ever think that they were for you, i.e. spouses, parents, boss, friend. Do you assume that people have a negative opinion about you and later find out that these people were positive or neutral in what they thought about you? And do you find yourself on edge around certain people or certain groups? Affirmative answers to these questions may indicate that you are not feeling righteous before God. When we have stood before God, knowing that He knows all about us and has accepted us, we are able to let what people think about us not determine our reaction. In 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 and 4, there's a beautiful description of a clear conscience. Here's what it says, verse 3. But with me, it's a very small thing that I should be judged by you or any human court. In fact, I don't even judge myself, for I am not aware of anything against myself, but I am not thereby acquitted. It is the Lord who judges me. Therefore, do not pronounce judgment before its time, before the Lord comes, who will bring to light what is now hidden in the darkness and will disclose the purposes of the heart. Then each one will receive his commendation from God. The reason that we can ever stand without being ashamed isn't because we just simply say, I don't care what you think. It's because we say, I know what God thinks, and that matters infinitely more to me than what you think. So today, do you find yourself running although no one is fleeing? Do you find yourself being edgy with guilt? Or are you confident and bold because you know your standing is right before God?
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.